Hey up, I'm the Yorkshire Time Lord, and this is Dogs Over Dogs for Saturnynes. So after I filmed the intro for this video, Big Finish announced that David Tennant and Tom Baker are going to be doing an audio together. And that's really cool. It's got like a multi-doctor adventure with a 4th Doctor and the 10th Doctor. Something involving an alien cathedral and the Daleks. Some place where they go and they want to ponder things like the 10th Doctor's destiny, for example. It sounds like a lot of fun, that. And if that had been announced before I filmed the intro, I'd have found some way to tie this video into the Big Finish announcement of Out of Time, the 10th Doctor and 4th Doctor team-up story. I filmed the intro before that was announced, so I can't really tie this in somewhat to that, because I decided before we announced that this week's video was going to be on the Saturnynes. And the Saturnynes debuted in the Doctor Who Series 5 story, The Vampires of Venice. It was a story written by Toby Whithouse, and he's written a few good Doctor Who stories. He wrote School Reunion, and he wrote The Gods Complex as well, and obviously he's known for Being Human, which was a very, very, very popular BBC Three fantasy series. And I liked Vampires of Venice as well. It was a great episode of Doctor Who. And the Saturnynes, they invaded 1580 Venice. They were running like an all-girls school, which is a really interesting thing to think about now, because when I was growing up, obviously boys and girls were in like the same school. There was no boys' school and girls' school. When my dad was growing up, there was like a boys' school and a girls' school, but it wasn't for me. It's strange to think of being separate schools for different genders. It's kind of sexist in a way. We've kind of moved on a lot as a society since was times in the past when there was things like that. But getting on to the Saturnynes, they were a really, really interesting idea. They were basically vampire fish, which is a really odd idea. It's like vampires that are fish, and Doctor Who's done vampires before this as well, in the Doctor Who serial State of Decay, which was a Tom Baker serial from the classic series. And there was also Dracula that made an appearance in the Doctor Who serial The Chase with William Hartnell. So it's something that Doctor Who dabbled in before. There were 3 key members. There was Rosanna Calveri, who was played by Helen McElroy, who some may remember from Harry Potter, and she was very good in Harry Potter as well. In Harry Potter, she played Draco Malfoy's mother. Sister Malfoy, is that how you say it? Well, she was very good in those Harry Potter films. She played the part very well. The Malfoys were quite a creepy family, and they were very well played and very well portrayed. Isabella, the daughter of Guido, who was a Venetian shipbuilder. She was admitted to the girls' school, and she was basically transformed into one of them, put through a transformation at the girls' school. And Isabella was actually going to be made the bride for one of Rosanna's sons, but she wasn't actually aware of that. She never actually became a full Saturnynian, or Saturnine as I'm referring to him here. She couldn't go outside because the sun burnt her skin. She helped Amy Pond when she went undercover in the girls' school to find out what was going on with the Saturnynes, turning people into vampire fish. And to Rosanna, Isabella was a traitor, and Rosanna punished her by pushing her into the canal. The children actually pulled Isabella under, and they ate her, which is actually quite dark for Doctor Who when you think about it. Francesco, which was the alias used by one of Rosanna Calvieri's male children, and they escaped the silence that fell over Saturnyne. What they referred to as the silence that fell over Saturnyne was actually known as a time field. And a time field is basically a body of time energy that's spilled from the cracks in time. It was quite a unique kind of idea, fish that are vampires, vampire fish. It's just proper Doctor Who bizarre. Despite being alien fish, they could actually survive on land. They needed a lot of water, but they could survive on land, and the water they needed they could drain from other creatures. And they were quite sensitive to ultraviolet light as well. The children of the Saturnynes, they had quite a strange connection to their mother, Because Rosanna Calvieri, she actually indicated at one point in the screenplay that when she died, that would be like the end of her race. It was quite good the way they brought in things like the perception filters, which have been used quite often, particularly during the new series of Doctor Who. It's quite a common device used to disguise somebody, make them look like something else. So they used that to disguise themselves as humans. So they appeared in humanoid form, and that's how they could lure these girls into Saul Go's skull to turn them into vampire fish. But the problem with the technology was that it couldn't actually hide reflections. And because the human brain, it couldn't process these two conflicting pieces of information, they had no reflections in mirrors. So it kind of gave away the fact that they were vampires. It wasn't entirely useful for them, really. They should have maybe found some other means. And then there was also the fact that the fangs could be seen when they were fed. And that was because the subconsciousness in the brain can perceive danger, and that alerted somebody's mind. That would alert the human mind that there was something wrong, so that was a bit of a flaw as well. But they did all the typical vampire stuff, like drinking blood, draining people of blood, which a place assassin blood, draining of blood is quite typical to vampires. And he had an interesting ability that could control the weather, which they used to cause various storms and earthquakes. That would be great, wouldn't it? Being able to control the weather. Could you imagine if you could just make it be sunny all the time? I mean, it wouldn't do much for crops and food and stuff, but it'd be great being able to go out with the sun all the time. Always being sunny, no rain or I'd love that. But yeah, vampires, and you don't really think about it, but vampires actually have quite a history of Doctor Who. I mean, there's talk of like in the Dark Times that the Time Lords actually fought the great vampires. They actually fought vampires during the Dark Times. One of the things that's quite interesting is that these vampire fish, Saturnynes, they were actually caught in the crossfire of the Dark Times, the Time Lords versus the great vampires. So it was other vampires that were caught in the midst of it all, which is quite interesting given that they're quite similar, the great vampires and the Saturnynes. Of course, the Curse of Fenric had vampires in it as well, herbivores. You don't really think about a connection between Doctor Who and vampires, it's not that obvious. Their homeworld is known as Saturnyne, which isn't the most original thing, but it's an interesting point to make. At some point, it was besieged by the cracks in time. The cracks in time consumed the planet Sky, so that's why they came to Earth for these girls that they were turning into vampires, because they lost their planet to the cracks in time, but it was caused by a TARDIS. Earth has a few oceans, so it was ideal for them with the water that it was about, which made it, because the oceans made it quite a bit like their own planet. And the other things I didn't realise was that actually with Saturnynes, I didn't realise they were in like other media, extended media. I thought it was just a one-off alien creation, but they're actually in a story called Multifaceted War, which was included in the Part of the Myths and Legends book, which had Rassilon in it as well. It had Rassilon featured in it. That's what took place during the Dark Times, the original Time Lord War. And they were also in a comic called Untitled, which starred the 10th Doctor and Rose, and they were also in Monster File Vampires, which was a story with River Song. I didn't realise that. That's quite an interesting thing. I wonder if they ever return to Doctor Who. Who knows, as Tom Baker would say. Anyway, let me know what you think about the Saturnynes in the comments below.